This e-reader, or should I say tablet, tries to fill that niche for an upgrade to color e-ink, but it doesn't quite nail it for a couple of reasons. On the surface, it's impressive. It's equipped with a 7-inch Kaleido 3 screen, which is the same size as in the Kindle Oasis, which is top of the line for color ink right now. You're getting a sharp 300 ppi for black and white, and a solid 150 ppi for color, thanks to the RGB filter on top of the ink screen. This combination works quite well, which means black text is crisp and colors are clear enough that images don't come off as pixelated. Pure color text could be better though. The screen can show up to 4096 colors, but they are not as vibrant as what you get from a regular LCD. But that should be expected with coloring devices, so no surprise here. Honestly, I got used to it pretty quickly, so I don't really see it as an issue. Same as with other Kaleido screens. This one is also noticeably darker in comparison to a regular black and white ink screen. I'd say even more so than other Kaleido screens. On the bright side, it doesn't have this slight greenish tint that the books that Mini C has when the front lights are off. But a screen like this is best used with the front light activated because without it, it's just too dark. Which brings me to my first complaint. Even with the maximum brightness setting, the front light is pretty dim. Only 28 nits when using the cold white LEDs, which are actually pretty warm in comparison to many other devices. So the reason why I think that's a bit too dim is because the color ink screen has a bit of grain to it. And that grain usually disappears when the brightness levels are higher, as evidenced by other Kaleido 3 devices. And in this case, the grain seems to be a bit more pronounced in my opinion. The only way to dial up the brightness is to add warm orange LEDs to the mix, which brings the display to a brightness of 50 nits. That's fine in terms of brightness, but turns the screen slightly orange, making color reproduction throughout the day not the greatest. The front LED has a slight brightness gradient from left to right, but I've seen worse and didn't really have a problem with it in that regard. Besides the screen, this Bigme tablet packs some cool features, like the scratch-resistant front glass, a microphone, speaker, expandable storage, and it even supports pen input for note-taking. Always running Android 11. Oh, and it also has physical page turn buttons, because why not? It sounds almost too good to be true for an EInk fan looking for a compact, capable color ink device for note-taking. Specs-wise, there's not much more you could ask for in this form factor, but there are a few hiccups. The smallest one being its name, Bigme B751C. It doesn't roll off the tongue compared to the likes of the Kindle Oasis, and also doesn't quite match up with other Bigme names like Inknot or S6 Color. A bit more consistency in the naming would make it easier for potential buyers to spot and remember their products, in my opinion. That said, this is the least of my concerns. The bigger issue for me is the software of the Bigme B751C, because software is where the magic happens. And this is an apprentice at best. On first glance, the UI looks similar to what you'd find on a books device, which is good. But when using it, you pretty quickly notice a couple of issues with it. The most annoying thing for me is the occasional sluggishness. It's not a problem all of the time, but every now and then the tablet doesn't respond as quickly to my input as it should. What sounds like a little thing, I personally found quite frustrating because you'll never know if you should tap the screen again or wait, and tapping the screen again will then do something else. Besides that, the user interface isn't as clean and well organized as on books devices. Don't get me wrong. Books has a couple of issues with their own system being too bloated at times, but with the Bigme UI, it's more apparent in more spots. It feels almost like it's work in progress with some parts that weren't even translated when I first got the device. Luckily, a software update fixed that issue for the most part, which brings me to my next point. Battery life isn't great. Leaving the Bigme B751C on standby as you typically do with a Kindle Oasis and just pick it up where you left off, would often result in having lost quite a bit of charge in the meantime, something I never noticed with my Kindle Oasis during normal use. And with normal use, the battery also drains quite quickly. Okay, let's also look at note-taking, reading books, and Android, which to be fair are working better than expected. Note-taking works via this active pen, so it's not Wacom technology, which I suspect is a cost-saving measure. I expected a significantly worse latency, but it's actually very usable. Better than on the Kobo Ellipse 2E, which is also using an active pen. There's pressure and tilting detection, which aren't optimized very well, but are still nice to have. When not in use, the pen is placed in the loop of the cover. The note-taking functions themselves are solid and also remind me a lot of Books tablets. Although same as with the rest, the note-taking UI isn't as refined as on the competition. Reading regular ebook. Ebooks works fine, but same as with the note-taking, polishing could be better. You have the most important functions like text styling changes, note-taking, and a dictionary available, with a couple of dictionaries even ready to download. There is also text-to-speech function available, but unfortunately, right now at least, it's only usable with Chinese books. There is no option to switch the engine to English or other languages, at least I couldn't find it. Android 11 is open for app installations, either through the Google Play Store or by sideloading APK files. So if you're not happy with the included ebook app, you can simply use another one, like the Kindler. There was a Chinese Kindle pre-installed when I got the device, but that was automatically removed with the software update, which is a bit weird, to be honest. So best if you just download the official app if you want to use that. There are 5 different ink modes available, with a couple of other settings to do a little fine-tuning as well. And honestly, most of the apps work just fine with a tiny bit of tinkering and getting the right mode. I'd even say that Bigme does a better job with those modes than Books with the Book Super Refresh technology. In extreme mode, you can even watch videos, and those actually look better in terms of ghosting than on Books devices. Which also means fast-paced Android apps are better on here. But as I said, the UI isn't as refined, and switching modes isn't the same, more or less, flawless experience that you'd find on a Books device. So more often than not, I was a little annoyed by navigating to the control panel for those settings. So all in all, would I recommend the Bigme B751C as a color ink upgrade to the Kindle Oasis? No. The gap between this and the Kindle user interface in terms of ease of use and responsiveness are just too big in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that the 7-inch Bigme tablet can't be the right choice if you're looking at it another way. Specs-wise, this tablet is incredibly well equipped, and at the time of recording this video, there's really nothing like this available for international markets in that size segment, with an asymmetrical design and with color ink. Looking at it this way, you can work around some of the mentioned software and usability issues, so my main complaint remains the rather dim Frontlight. If you can live with that and are willing to compromise a bit on the software side, the Bigme B751C is actually a pretty solid device. Not great, but solid. That's it. Like and subscribe if you found this review helpful, and to not miss future reviews and comparisons. Thanks for your time watching, and see you in the next one.